Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. My name's James, and today we're looking forward to a game in Game Week 36. And we've got a returnee correspondent with us today who we very much missed. Firstly, let me introduce you to Gemma and Harrison, our West Bromwich Albion correspondents. How are you both?
Very good, thank you.
Good. And let me introduce you to Dan Lord at FPL Loco Lord on Twitter, our Liverpool correspondent. How are you, Dan?
I'm good, thanks, James. You guys?
Good, very good. Thank you, mate. Gemma, we have to mention the R word, unfortunately, relegation. How's the feeling now it's all confirmed?
To be honest, I'm disappointed, but it was inevitable. And yeah, it was, and it's been, I don't know, the last few games, it's been like purgatory this season, and like you think they've got no hope, and then after that Chelsea and Southampton result, you thought, oh gosh, are they going to do it? And then they didn't. So yeah, we are, but next season we might actually win a few games, and there's no VAR, so there's also
lucky
advantages.
Me and Dan might come and join you for a year. I think we'd love that. No, the world without VAR.
Yeah.
Was it just a case? Do you think did the run get left too late? Because you're quite right to highlight the Chelsea and Southampton games. I mean, the Chelsea game, you could say, because of the red card, there was a little bit of an anomaly, but you scored some brilliant goals and you blitzed Southampton. Was it just a case that it got left too late for some reason?
I think so. And then we had a 10-day break to the Leicester game, which I don't think helped us. And I think he set up his tactics all wrong in that game, and they were at home. And just they were playing like the away side, Leicester were, because they just kept hitting us on the break. We just played right into their hands. And yeah, I just don't think the break helped us at all. It just broke up the momentum, and then we had the two local derbies, and didn't win either of those. So yeah, I think it was too late, and there was, Big Sam came in December, January, and there was no instant new manager bounce at all. We were still being trounced every single week. I don't think he realised quite how bad we were. And ultimately, it's the same defence that was in the Championship. It's almost identical. And now it will probably be the same again next season, and they'll be fine. But they just didn't bring enough quality in, and Slav just picked a lot of the same players that were there, and that we weren't really improved. And then it wasn't until C.O.T.C came in and Maitland-Niles and things that actually we started to look way better. But by that time it was too late. Did you see the thing about Maitland-Niles had a rant at them?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. It basically said that they weren't good enough and they needed to put their ideas up.
To be fair, he could have said that in the Arsenal dressing room as well.
yeah. So yeah, that's true. So I'm a little bit worried about next season, because a lot of our best players are loanees. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how players like Grady and Garner do, because he's just been nowhere, like
absent
all the time. Yeah, where has he been? And I think Big Sam said that he's going to give a few of the fringe players a bit more game time in these next few. Might help Liverpool. So yeah, we'll see, because it's like Carl Grant. You'd expect him to be our main striker in the Championship, and he might bang them in down there. It's completely different. So
no chance of getting Diane in permanently, then, you don't think?
I don't think so. Do you know what, James? I'm not sure about him. I know we've had this conversation. Okay. He has got a really, really good presence. He doesn't know what the offside rule is. It's ridiculous. The amount of times he's offside is insane. And he just misses a lot of chances. He is. In the Championship, he would be amazing. But I don't think he'd want to stay. Same with C.O.T.C. He's way better than Albion. He's a Premier League player. Yeah, Pereira will definitely go, and Johnston. So yeah, it's a bit.
The majority of the rest of it will stay together, though. A lot of people have obviously correctly pointed out that Norwich and Watford have obviously come straight back, keeping the nucleus of the team together. I mean, Norwich lost Lewis and Godfrey. Watford kept most of the team together. But you're right to highlight, and it's the same for Fulham as well. Both of the clubs have a lot of loan players who are not going to be there next year. So there is still some form of a rebuild. I think you're right to highlight Pereira and Johnston will definitely have suitors in the Premier League. If you strip that away and then the loanees, then you're taking away sort of 6 or 7 away from the starting 11 at the moment, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, it happened the last time that we went down, we had to have quite a significant rebuild. And that took the couple of years to come back up. Also, it's where I'm still on the fence about Big Sam as well, whether I want him to stay or not. But I don't at the moment. I think there's no one else out there who's more experienced than him. So I think we'd be stupid to get rid of him and get somebody else in. The only other one is Chris Wilder. Is the only other option, I think. Otherwise, who else is out there that would want it? I think the Big Sam probably will want to stay.
I would think Chris Wilder would be a brilliant appointment. Is that something you've heard?
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you feel in hindsight Bilic should have got more time or Allardyce should have come in earlier? Have you got any thoughts on that on reflection?
Yeah. So I mean, I was a big Bilic fan. I love his passion and, how he inspired the players and things like that. But I think from things that I've heard, I don't think the training regime was right, and I don't think the players were putting enough effort in. I think Big Sam came into a bit of a shock, and he said that they all had to raise their game, and I think they just got a little bit too comfortable, to be honest. I think if Big Sam had come in earlier, then I think we would have stayed up.
What's your thoughts on them, Dan? Because Allardyce's first game was against yourselves, wasn't it? I think I'm right in saying over December period. I'm sure that was the first game. We should have been a few up at half time, and then obviously Ajayi got the equaliser at the Anfield Road end. Yeah. It was kind of the start of your dip, actually. What's your thoughts on them, Dan? I mean, just discussing it from the outside. Imagine if me and you were in the pub and we were discussing it, we go, "No, we want to keep Allardyce full time." It feels very shortism, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not sure Allardyce would want it. I don't know. He seems to be just one of them people who just wants to keep people in the division these days, isn't it? It's I don't know. I don't think it's a bad appointment, judging from what Gemma said. If he's actually turned it around a little bit attitude-wise, if they were slacking off in training and things like that, and he's come and changed that around. I mean, the bare minimum for a team like West Brom, any team who's going to struggle to stay in the Premier League, is you want 100% effort. And if they're not doing that, then you're on a hide into nothing from the word go, aren't you? I think Chris Wilder would be a brilliant appointment for West Brom, or anyone in the Championship for that matter, or even some of the lower Premier League clubs. Yeah, why not?
Oh, well, my team could take him then. That'll do. I know he plays a decent brand of football. I'll take it, Dan.
Do you think that Big Sam will have like a point to prove now, though? Now he's been finally relegated, or do you think that won't bother him?
I've felt a few times, Gemma, that I've felt listening to him in interviews after games that he hasn't shown that case. Sam's got a bit of charisma about him. He's not frightened to upset people and stuff. And I felt he's had, kind of understandably, a bit of a defeatist attitude, probably since the Leicester game particularly, where I think you had that little moment where you think, could they win sort of 5 games in a row or something? And the performance at Leicester was abysmal, really, to be honest with you. And I felt that really deflated him. He said a number of times, like, I wanted to get it to the last day, give ourselves a chance. And it was never within any form of touching distance. I think he was disillusioned from the start. You had them awful home results, didn't you? The 3-0 Villa, 4-0 Arsenal, 5-0 Leeds.
The Leeds game,
It was a really bad start. And I think you're right. I don't think he quite realised the size of the task that he was walking into. I feel like he's gone into other places and you get that kind of siege mentality. I feel like that's quite difficult to do without crowds and stuff.
I just think
ground at the moment
as well when he's sat in the dugout as well. I don't know whether that's his style generally, but he just doesn't look like he's bothered at all.
Well, how old is he now?
Oh, he's
in his 70s, isn't he? Is he not in his 70s?
No, I think he's about 67.
When
66.
he was making these comments, I think the first month he took over, he was trying to deflect some of the blame on the team. And he was talking about COVID quite a lot, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
I just saw that as a tactic that was kind of on the side to ignore what's happening on the pitch, but maybe it was something that generally was concerning him as well, possibly.
Yeah, maybe, but he just doesn't seem like he was bothered just on the touchline. The difference between Slav, being so animated, and then Big Sam just kind of sat back, arms folded, like he doesn't care, was a bit bizarre. But another thing I'll say is that I associated Big Sam with like long ball football, but actually we haven't really been playing that at all. And like the Chelsea game, it was just ridiculous, the football that they were playing. I don't mind keeping him if they play like that, but I don't want it to be like Tony Pulis all over again, because that's just depressing.
I think we've spoken about that before and said Sam gets that critique, but then like at Bolton, people forget he had people like JJ Okocha and Jure Djorkaeff. I think always in kind of defensive solidity, utilise set pieces properly. Let's be honest, like your winning goal against Brighton and stuff, it's a goal from a corner. He's really important to the way he wants to play, but get it in the final third, play a bit. It's the same with Sean Dyche at Burnley. Once you get in the final third, you play some proper football. And you're right, the counter-attacking goals against Chelsea, there were some exceptional goals in that game.
Yeah.
Dan, we last spoke before you went to Arsenal. It's near enough your best performance of the season, wasn't it? That night.
Doesn't take much, does it?
Well, you look at that night, and it felt like watching. I know Arsenal were really bad, but it felt like a Liverpool back moment almost. Is like you've had the international break, some players coming back to fitness, and then the games since haven't been too inspiring. Since that, is that fair?
I think they've done all right, and I think they've looked good. They've controlled games. They're just devoid of confidence in front of goal. Everyone's just wants the season to be over. You can see it on the players' faces. It's like, let's just get this over with, and let's start again next year and try and forget it. Really, it seems that there's that kind of attitude, particularly now they're out the Champions League and the top four is within touching distance. You mentioned to me before the pod that you thought we might still get it if we got the last four wins. I still don't think we will. I remember on the last podcast that you spoke about, I said I can't see Chelsea slipping up, and obviously it's going to be Leicester who's going to slip up if anybody, you would think, but I still can't see it, especially after yesterday. With United putting that team out and getting and Leicester getting the 3 points, we've got to beat United and win our last three to even have any kind of glimmer of hope. I think
if you win on Thursday and you win on Sunday, Leicester will go into the game at Chelsea on Sunday and be fully aware that you're there and ready to pounce, basically. And that's all you can do is put the pressure on. Can you put your finger on the lack of confidence, or is it recycle same comment because of loss of Van Dijk, etc., and that kind of calming influence he gives throughout the team? Is there a specific reason you think beyond that for the lack of confidence? You're saying about people missing chances up front and stuff. That's not an effect of Van Dijk, is it?
No, and it goes through the whole team, the confidence. So before, Alisson was like a centre midfielder, wasn't he? The way he pinged the ball about and his confidence on the ball. And suddenly he has a few shaky moments. And when already you've got such a young and experienced defence in front of you, that kind of filters through the team. And you can see the nerves. And it got a little bit better. And that, for me, I'd said it all along, get Fabinho back in the centre of midfield and you'll see a difference. And you have seen a difference. And actually, the time he did go back to centre off, we look poor again. And I've not been the biggest fan of Williams. I think Phillips has done really well, but actually Williams looked a lot more not accomplished, but just confident within himself. He always looked like he was on like eggshells in the other games he'd featured in, but actually he looked a lot more cool, calm, and collective. And I think that's because of Fabinho sat in front of him. And even with United, I worry about how vulnerable we will be at the back with them, but I'd still much rather play with them two, even if Kabak's not fit, and have Fabinho in midfield than pull Fabinho back into defence. I don't like him there. And it's just gone right through the team. You know what I mean? Alisson's had a shocker. We've had a shocker at the back. They can't score up front. We've had Henderson, who's our engine, whether it be through his legs or more so his mouth, out for the vast majority of the season. It's just, it's just been poor throughout, really.
Talk me out of buying Trent this weekend then for the game, because you wouldn't.
No.
Would you talk me if I said to you, Dan, and this is obviously for the West Brom game for game week 36. If I said, Dan, I've got 2 free transfers, I want to buy Trent and Robertson. What would you say to that?
Go for it.
-4s?
Yeah, why not? On paper, we're not going to have any easier games now that West Brom can't get out of it. They've if they'd have shut up shop and tried to hit us on the counter, get a set piece, they might be more open. What's it matter to them now if they get beat 3 or 4-0? They, go out, enjoy yourselves, have a goal. That'll suit Liverpool. Same with Burnley. Now they're safe. Same kind of thing. If they sit back and try and frustrate us, they might have got something on a set piece, this, that, and the other. If they're going to go out and express themselves a little bit more, that'll play into Liverpool's hands.
The final 3 games, you come up against a very similar challenge in all of them. Diane, Chris Wood, Benteke.
Yeah. Big,
powerful forwards. Is that likely to be an issue, do you think?
I think Phillips can match him physically. That's what he is good at. Giving the ball on the floor and then it's, oh my God.
It's more suitable for him, actually. We discussed that in January, actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's good at. He's an old school centre half, so they call it. Throw it in the air, head it, get physical with your player. That'll suit him down to the ground, I think. He might get bullied a little bit, but I'd rather him play with them than against an experienced old wily cat like Cavani. If he plays tomorrow, he might give him the run around.
He's got phenomenal movement, Cavani.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think Reece Williams will play at United then? Or do you think Klopp will be a bit nervous about it? Because he had a bad time in the cup game there, Reece Williams, didn't he?
I suspect he'll probably play Fabinho in the back. I don't want him to, but I suspect he will if Kabak's not fit, which the rumours are he probably isn't. He's not been seen in training and stuff. So,
unfortunately, it solves one problem by giving you 2. Basically, is exactly what happens with that, isn't it? Unfortunately, because Fabinho is so big for you in that particular area. Can I ask Gemma, who are you intending to captain in FPL this week?
That is a very, very good question.
I hadn't thought that far yet, James.
No, I'm still not enjoying the throes of this so-called triple game week.
We skip that for the moment. The reason I asked you specifically is you had a brilliant rant with us a few months ago about definitely captain Bruno.
Yeah,
against West Brom, and it did pay off. Would you go with Salah this weekend if you owned? Do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I would. I mean, I don't actually own Salah, but if I did have him, I would have to. I think they will go in with the attitude that they've got nothing to lose, and I think they probably will attack, and then they'll just get picked off. So, yeah, Salah.
My thoughts are, Dan, I don't think, because you've got the 4 forwards, and I assume Salah definitely plays at United, I have a strong feeling that Salah won't play West Brom and Burnley. Would you be a little bit nervous about that from an FPL perspective if you wanted to sit the armband on Salah?
It all depends on tomorrow. If we get anything from the game or if we win, then Salah's surely going to start. If we lose, and then the slim chance of top 4 is out there, I still think he'll play West Brom, even if we lose tomorrow, and then see what happens at the weekend. As long as it's still achievable, I don't see why he should rest him. Really, he might rest Jota, he might rest Firmino like he has done. I'm not sure he'll play with all 4 all the time. But if he's going to, he's got to do it against these kind of sides, hasn't he? Where hopefully you can have more possession. So I'm not worried about him resting. For me, it's Salah or DCL, I think, at the weekend.
I'd more likely go DCL personally. Just I've got that little bit of nervous about it. But you're quite right to highlight the idea of obviously all 4 playing together. They did that against Newcastle. So with West Brom, Burnley, and Palace to go, particularly if he is thinking, I might shove Fabinho back to centre back, He could play Wijnaldum and Thiago together as a 2 and play all 4, couldn't he? Is a possibility, actually. Do you like them in that system when they play that?
I don't mind the system. I just think the players who are playing in that system, i.e. Mane and Firmino at the moment, are just not, a shadow of the players they were, that it doesn't actually work. If you had peak Firmino playing that role, I think it would work brilliantly, but he's just, he's one of the many who just shot of confidence, and the form's been out the window. And it looks like Jota's forms, it's a bit of a wall, but actually I think you've got to take into consideration his XG. He was far outscoring, his XG with the goals he was getting. He was pretty much scoring with every single shot he had, whereas he's not happening now, and it's actually real football where you don't score every time you shoot. So
he'd be underperforming it now, though, over the last few games, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, before it was unsustainable anyway. But I still like Jota. I think he's got a real eye for goal, hasn't he?
Yeah, I like him. I mean, he's in my team, and I don't particularly have a reason to get rid of him, I think, with those final fixtures. Matheus Pereira, Gemma, I guess those owners may well be thinking of getting rid. I felt in the Arsenal game there was a real, I'm going to take this game and I'm going to try and win it by myself. And I haven't got a lot of hair, but every time I see him play wide, I want to tear what little I've got left out, because I just want to see him play centrally, because I love him as a footballer. He was the one we really spoke about last summer. He's got super ability. I think you accept he's not going to play championship football next year. Where do you, firstly, 2 questions. Firstly, how much would the club expect for him, do you think, in a sale? And secondly, if you're an owner of him in FPL, what's the plan?
Well, first of all, I mean, Albion have historically haven't tended to sell their best player. They hang on to them. Like, remember Saido Berahino when he was kicking off about going to Spurs?
Well, I remember that very well.
and they were like, no way. And then he just disappeared into obscurity and, just lost everything. But I think they will. I mean, you've got to be, I mean, he is amazing, and you're right. It's very frustrating that he's played the majority of the season on the wing, and then playing him just behind the striker. He's amazing. He could play for most Premier League clubs, I expect. It's got to be at least 20 million, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, easy, at least that.
And
I would have said.
Same with Johnston. Johnston is,
I really like him.
Yeah, I mean, he could go. There would be lots of clubs looking to get him in. So, I mean, I don't begrudge either of them. They're both Premier League players, so, I don't want to hold them back. In terms of FPL, I would probably keep Pereira. Why get rid of him?
Well, you could look at it and you could say for yourselves, the final 3 fixtures being Liverpool, West Ham and Leeds is obviously a difficult run in itself. There's no need to get rid of him at that value, definitely not. But you could look at it and go, well, sideways move to Rafinha or Harrison. Yeah, the other one, the less important one, mate, Jack Harrison, at the same price, 5.4 million, with 3 fixtures to go. You could say Leeds have got 3 really good fixtures to finish with. I think that's the sort of move. Pereira to Rafinha, I could see people considering if they've got the luxury to do it.
I just think that Pereira has a real point to prove there. I think that Pereira against Arsenal, I think you'll see that in the next 3. Like, he's just going to want to, just prove how good he is. And there's always a chance he's going to get a penalty or a free kick or something.
Yeah, he's on pens as well. Yeah, quite right.
So I would be sticking with him, to be honest.
Do you think he'd be good enough to play for Liverpool?
I think if he was played in the right position, then yeah. I do.
Any thoughts, Dan? To be perfectly honest, I haven't obviously seen as much of him as Gemma has. The times I have seen him, he's technically very, very, very good and possibly one of the technically best in the league from a skill perspective. I remember that piece of skill he did early in the season where, not many players can do that, where he hits his back of his leg and he over the defender.
I think it was, I want to say.
I can't remember who it was against, but that's special. Very few players can do that. It reminds me a little bit of Coutinho.
I can see that.
But like I say, I've not seen enough of him to say yay or nay. Obviously, he'll be a better player in a better side, no doubt about it. I don't know.
Well, that's it, isn't it? You never really know what a player like that ceiling is until you see it happen. I think the fear would be if he went and joined a club like you. And I'm just putting the link together because you're both on the podcast. That how often would he play, and does he kind of go into obscurity? But it could be that, yeah, it's the type of player to go back to the conversation we've had in the past, Dan, that you might argue that Liverpool have missed on occasions.
I mean, they have missed that player, and they've tried it a little bit when they've struggled. They tried it a little bit with Shaqiri to be that little bit of and he is to a certain extent, but is Pereira better than Shaqiri? I would probably say yes from what I've seen. I think Shaqiri's better days are behind him. And somebody like that, maybe to open up a defence because people have got better at defending against us this year, and it's harder to break teams down. We found it harder, sure.
Yeah, defensively, Gemma, is there anything? I mean, if you had anything FPL wise, is it sell or leave it on the bench for the remaining games? Is that we'd be at with it?
Yeah, sell. I mean, the only one is Johnston. The rest, sell or bench, definitely. They won't keep a clean sheet in the next three.
Okay,
no way.
That's very clear. How many would you predict for yourselves, Dan, excluding the United game for the moment? Those final three: West Brom, Burnley, and Palace.
How many? What
clean
goals?
sheets? Clean sheets.
Again, I think it a little bit depends on the United. It depends how the fixtures go. If it stays tight, the more chance of more clean sheets, I would say, the more cautious they will be. And if it becomes obvious that top four is not achievable, I think that less likely, because they'll be just trying to get Salah to be top goal scorer or something along them lines. They'll be all out attack, nothing to lose, nothing to play for. They'll be in Europa League probably. So I think it depends. I recently, if this is anything to go off, I had 2 Liverpool defenders in my team, and I took a -8 this week to take away one of them and add Salah. So I've now got 2 attackers and 1 defender.
Who have you got?
I've got Robertson because I couldn't afford Trent, and Jota and Salah.
So I mean, would you say Trent over Robertson personally then?
If you have the money, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any case to just make the saving and go Phillips?
If you needed to make a saving, why not? Like I say, it depends on. With Trent and Robbo, you've also got the added bonus of attacking returns, haven't you? And if they do get a clean sheet, then you're pretty much nailed on 3 points with Trent, regardless, for bonus, because he always gets the bonus when they get a clean sheet, even when he seems like he's done nothing in the game. A bit like Bruno Fernandes to that extent. I don't know. But if you can't afford, like I say, it depends. If we get anything from tomorrow's game, then they're going to still be tight, and we could turn over West Brom with a clean sheet, and then if Leicester slip up at the weekend, then it's going to be tight again. And we may keep a clean sheet against is it Burnley, the next one?
Yeah, next Wednesday.
Yeah, so it all depends on how fixtures go, but I'd be more inclined to go with the attacking players. Have 1 and 2 attacking players.
I think there's people at the moment might be in a situation where they've got maybe just Jota and are probably thinking things like Fernandes to Salah. Then the first question is it affordable? If it is, obviously great, but then probably thinking, well, I do want to get a defensive one as well. And there are going to be a lot of hits knocking about this week because there's obviously like United don't play and a few other teams on that as well. Would you, if you're in a position you're looking at a -4 to go Phillips or a -8 to go Trent, would you rather go to, I'm going to feel like, Dan, you'd say you'd rather go to -8, go the whole lot with it. I thought you'd say that. Any thoughts on that, Gemma, if you were in a similar position?
Yeah, I've got Trent. I've had him for a few weeks now. I'll go -8 for that, definitely.
All right. Very, very clear with that in mind then. Deanne, if people held Gemma?
Oh, that's stupid too.
Well, there's a lot of good forward options kind of opening up this weekend with your Antonios, Bamfords, Calvert-Lewins, etc. Christian Benteke in time for Liverpool in Gameweek 38. He always does well against you, doesn't he, Dan, in fairness?
Not as well as Allardyce, which is what I'm worried about at the weekend.
Oh, right. Okay. What makes you say that? Is that something historical then?
Yeah, it might not be, but in my head, Allardyce sides always get something from us for whatever reason. I don't know. It's just, it might not be true, but it always seems that way. I'd have to look at the stats to see, but it always seems like.
I really wish I'd done the research now. Do you?
Well, he did start the run at Anfield, didn't he? Because it was that game against Albion and we drew. And then they went on that hideous run of losing how many they did in a row at home.
Yeah,
so
I mean, the writing was on the wall there.
Do you go into these final 3 games with any confidence at all, Gemma? Or is it kind of fated now?
No, I can't, to be honest, James, I can't wait for the season to be over. I saw a good tweet, I can't remember who it was, that said with Norwich and Watford and possibly Bournemouth coming back up, Man City winning the league, can we just pretend that this season never happened?
Yeah, I'd like to prefer that the last 2 seasons didn't happen. Can I go back to early 2019 and prepare for my Champions League final with Dan, which I'll obviously inevitably lose, of course. Happier times.
I think that, they've got that. I mean, they can play with some freedom. They've got nothing to lose now. I think he will put people like Dion Garner in and give other people a chance, maybe Grant and things, and just.
So you're expecting changes then?
Yeah, I think. Well, he said that he will. I expect them. Yeah. So we'll see.
Is there any point playing these loan players if they're going to go back?
Well, no, I suppose not really. No, I mean, I'll be really sad to see Maitland-Niles go back. I mean, I didn't. I said it. You didn't rate him, Gemma, be honest. But he is a midfielder. He's proved it to me, especially the Southampton game. He was absolutely.
He was very good that day.
Like, that was the best. I would absolutely love us to keep C.O.T.C, just somehow. But I don't think he'd want to stay. But Sam will need to replace him with somebody very similar. That will be his first job.
It depends, doesn't it? If Sam stays on, modern market, Pereira and Johnston, I don't think 50 million is completely unreasonable. English goalkeepers are important to clubs, even if they're to be used as second choice because they're such a rarity. So I don't think 50 million for the 2 players being questioned. Then it's a case of, do you need to spend it? Because obviously you were quite prudent last year in terms of your spending when you came up. You didn't go mad. So you would think that the club's in a decent position to push to go again. I'm not saying there'll be big spending, but perhaps to get Allardyce the players that he wants in. If can we call him okay, Gemma?
You'll call him okay.
If it's just a case of, does he want to play in the Championship? It's probably more the biggest question. Because I suspect West Brom probably will try and buy him, actually.
I mean, how much did Ramsdale go for? Was that like 20?
18 to 20, I think. Roughly.
Yes, I mean, so if he's 18, then Johnson's more than that. You'd think?
I prefer Johnston to Ramsdale. I mean, Ramsdale's been better last couple of months, but I mean, if England lost one of the 3 goalkeepers tomorrow and had to call up one of them for the Euros, I would definitely prefer Johnston, personally. I think he's solid, steady. He's made loads of saves for you. Not that Ramsdale hasn't as well. He's obviously had to. I like Johnston. It's interesting. I look at him, he's been linked with Tottenham so many times down the years, but I think only ever as a number 2. And that's probably what it would be again, come in as a number 2, maybe with a view to be a number 1 in a year or 2. He needs to play football.
He does. He needs to be the number 1 somewhere.
He's probably then a case of how many Premier League clubs actually need a first choice goalkeeper at the moment. Is not many, and you can end up getting a situation like Jack Butland got in. He was obviously very highly rated, and then ended up staying at Stoke for a long time, and his career kind of disappeared a little bit, unfortunately. But if he went down and come straight back up, he's almost better off staying, actually.
I think that we'll have one of the best budgets in the Championship next season.
Then you should be strong.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think you'd expect them to get at least second. So fingers crossed. We'll see. I mean, it annoys me because in the media coverage they say yo-yo club, and okay, we have been relegated 5 times, but we did have 8 consecutive seasons in the Premier League. That seems to have been forgotten.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when they were, Gemma.
Well, 2 years ago. So
I remember with Steve Clark a little spell, and it was brief talk for a couple of weeks of could you push for Europe and stuff.
Straight after Hodgson that was, so I took on his team. Yeah, that was amazing. And then it was like November, and they were fourth or something. But yeah, it's just people just seem to think that we just bounce up and down every other, but we don't. We had those 8 years, so I just want to state that.
Any concern down on Klopp?
What, staying?
Yeah. I don't necessarily mean just this summer. I just mean in the next year or so going forward.
No, I think he'll see out his contract at least. And he recently signed and he extended it a couple of years. Is it 24 now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he'll see out that if he doesn't extend. So it'll be minimum then, I would have thought.
I was thinking more from the perspective of that was before owners decided to try and wreck things behind the scenes. Obviously happened at 5 other clubs as well. He's a passionate man, Klopp, and he didn't want to be a part of it, quite clearly. Do you think that there's something there between FSG and Klopp that could be problematic going forward?
I would hope not. I mean, they disappointed a lot of fans with that. If Klopp was to walk because of it as well, then they're on a hiding then from the fans. You know, that's the only good. Obviously, with FSG coming in, we can't slate them as much as United slate the Glazers because we won a Premier League which we hadn't won for 30 years, and primarily that's because of the appointment of Klopp. So, you know, they've done good there, and if he walked because of them, then the title will be forgotten. You know what I mean? They'll turn very quickly on the club.
There weren't massive protests at Anfield, and I thought there would be. I guess on reflection, it probably is for that, isn't it? 2 European, 2 Champions League finals in a row, 1 lost, 1 won, Premier League completely dominant the year after. You kind of think, well, what do you want then? I feel there's an undercurrent of a lot, even before this Super League stuff. There's a lot of undercurrent of unhappiness amongst Liverpool fans with the amount Klopp's been backed in the transfer market.
Yeah, I mean that's the impression we get. You know, it took forever to get the loan signings in of centre halves when we knew they were out for the season and more with Gomez and Van Dijk. But you don't know, do you? You don't know what's been said. You don't know, if they are. I mean, they run the club very well from a financial point of view. You know, like Levy does. You know, but they're tight at the same time, but they don't spend. They don't spend. They don't spend what they don't have. You know, they're not a City where they can just buy anyone. It doesn't matter. It doesn't dent the bank account. They're conscious of that. And if that's the case and they have to sell to buy, then so be it. You know, unless we had a super rich owners, we can't complain, can we?
It's worth saying at this point that the selling of Philippe Coutinho, which looked really bad for the club at the time, although the money looked incredible, the money was obviously very well spent on Alisson and Van Dijk and a few other bits and bobs, which obviously made a massive difference.
Yeah, I mean, Edwards in the background, he's been brilliant with the signings, the recruitment. The only one they've really got wrong is Naby. In my opinion, Keita just hasn't worked out. You know, he ticked all the boxes from the models they used, and yes, injuries haven't helped, but everybody else, from bit part players to not like world class players. Suddenly, they build that team that's like I said, got the 2 finals, won the Premier League, and have challenged City well for the last few years. And from someone who remembers the good old days in the 80s when we were good, I'm that old. That it's been that long for us to wait again for a good time. So I can't slate FSG like United fans slate Glazers because I never saw it coming.
I was just looking at Naby Keita because I couldn't remember if he joined you 2 years ago or 3 years ago. This is actually his 3rd season, and he's only got up to around about 2,600 Premier League minutes in those 3 seasons. Which, I mean, I think you'd be about 3,200 for a full 1 season. Is that just injuries and stuff? It's not worked, or it's just not fulfilled it as a player?
Yeah, it's injuries. And I heard that last time he was injured, they were delaying getting him back because they were spending more time with the physios to actually strengthen him so he wouldn't go down, as easy as he has. I mean, there's a lot of Liverpool fans, on social media and wherever, who rave about Naby, and I want to like him and I want him to do well, but I think enough's enough now. We're just going to have to cut our losses with him and say he's not the answer that he should have been. He was sought after by everyone at the time when we got him, and we had to pay that premium to get him a little bit earlier before he did go out of contract, and it's just not worked out. And he's had glimpses, but then, for 3 years and the money we spent, them glimpses aren't enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, agreed. And just finally, Dan, Salah stay this summer, do you think? Or are you expecting sort of a kind of that kind of rebuild again? Let's sell some of the premiums to invest again.
I think, like we spoke about last time when we were on, it needs one of the big powerhouse clubs to spend some money to start a bit of a roundabout merry-go-round of transfers, doesn't it? If someone did, if PSG or Real just got themselves in more debt and made a big signing for Salah or Mane, then that gets the ball rolling for other players. But everyone's aspiring to get Mbappe and X, Y, and Z. That it's more likely it's a Rafinha or somebody like that. You know what I mean? I don't think we're going to be spending 170, 180 million, regardless of selling Salah or Mane for 80, 800, 120. I think it's more likely to be a 40 million for Rafinha or something like that.
I think Rafinha would be an incredible replacement for Salah, but wouldn't get the goals to the level of Salah. I mean, so understated how good he's been in front of goal for such a consistent period. He's not just losing that play, it's the goals as well. But then you can remodel it. You could get a Rafinha. You can buy Harry Kane as well if you want. Dan, there's your goals. No, you can't have Harry. Don't answer that.
He's going to United, isn't he?
Is he? I've heard Cavani's signed on. I think Harry's going to be stuck for Harry's going to be stuck for another 2 years, I think, mate.
Well, hopefully for you he is. I'd take some. Definitely.
I think that's more likely, by the way. And I do think Son could leave Tottenham this summer.
Yeah, but I think it needs someone to start this spending.
I agree.
Of a Liverpool player to start this kind of thing to go around, or other big clubs who aren't necessarily got a big bank account to actually buy someone without selling. I can't see it.
Do you think you finished top 4, Dan?
No.
Okay. Let's do predictions for the weekend then, guys. Gemma, Harrison, Liverpool Sunday, nice easy game. Let's have some correct score predictions.
Right, Harrison, what do you think against Liverpool? What do you think the score's going to be?
Against Liverpool against Albion?
Yeah.
3-0 Liverpool.
Wow.
I will go 3-1 Liverpool. Pereira's going to score.
It's just like his mother, isn't he? 3-0 and 3-1. Okay. Dan, predict the United game first, if you can.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was a boring 0-0 draw.
Okay. And the West Brom game Sunday?
I'm kind of with Gemma. I think probably 3-1, 3 or 4-1. Hopefully.
4-1.
That sounds like a Salah captaincy to me. I'm going to have to give this some thought. I'm going to say my prediction, Dan, that I did last week was for you to win at Manchester United, but that was bearing in mind not quite knowing what sort of fitness state they would turn up into the game into. I'm concerned about this centre-back issue with Kabak injured, and I think you'll have to outscore them, quite simply. I don't see the game being tight like that. I think United might want it that way, and it's probably the best way of getting at you is on the counter-attack. But similarly, if the game is goalless with half hour to go, we've seen this game in the past. You feel, well, both teams might settle for this. You can't, can you? You've got to go and try and win the game.
Yeah, I think Maguire being out, if he's out, it might help. As much crap as he gets, he is still United's best centre-half. He is a decent player. He just carries his price tag around with him, doesn't he? That could help us. It's like you say, it's at the other end of the pitch that worries me. But I don't know. It would be 0-0 sounds about right, but also generally the two teams, the one who's doing worse generally comes out on top. So it wouldn't surprise me. Maybe we can get all 3 points because obviously United are the better side at the moment, and it could work that way.
I'm going to stick with it. 2-1 Liverpool, And on Sunday, I'm going to say 2-0 Liverpool. I fancy you for the clean sheet. And I actually think that there could be a few clean sheets in those last few games for you actually, Dan, which is why I really want to. I don't even have to force Trent in. It would be a free transfer for me. I can't see me overthinking it. But I think I'm going to bottle the Salah captaincy. I mean, I'll go with Calvert-Lewin against Sheffield United is the more likely. I've got Kane as well. So I think Salah would probably be my third choice for this weekend because I'd just be conscious. But you saying, Dan, you think you'll play all the games probably?
Well, if we get anything out of the United game, particularly a win, I'll captain Salah. If we lose, then I won't. I'll captain Kane or DCL.
All right, noted. Thanks very much, guys. Absolute pleasure as always. Gemma, Harrison, we will definitely have you back on the podcast in the summer. Look forward to it. You can follow Gemma on Twitter at Gemma Baggies, and you can follow Dan at FPL_Loco Lord on Twitter. There are 2 more C.O.T.Cs to go before the season finishes, both next Friday and next Saturday. I don't know the order yet, but I can tell you it'll be Fulham versus Newcastle with At the Tinkermen and FPL_Footballer, and Leicester versus Tottenham with Aaron Lagor and Ricky Saunders. I'll be back with Suj in the morning reviewing all the midweek action from Game Week 35, and my deadline stream on YouTube will be at 5:30 p.m. Thanks again to Gemma, to Harrison, Dan. Good luck for the weekend. Cue music, please, man child.